Showtime!
Ladies and gentlemen, please make your way to your seats.
Showtime!
Please make your way to your seats. The show is about to begin.
Showtime!
Let the magic begin.
Yeah.
Scientists have discovered an amazing practical use for leftover coffee grounds.
So let's dive right into this. So as it feeds into this, those coffee grounds from all of the testing and all of the brewing could be used in this. So just to put things into perspective, annual global coffee production generates over 10 billion with a B kilograms of waste coffee grounds that pretty much typically end up in landfills unless people are using it as fertilizer or whatever in their gardening. So the other thing is concrete production is also very resource intensive. It relies heavily on sand mining, which damages river ecosystems. So researchers pyrolyzed used coffee grounds at 350 degrees Celsius to produce porous biochar particles. So adding the coffee-derived biochar to the concrete increased its strength by up to 30% in testing. Biochar bonds with the cement matrix, so that's how it does, and it acts as a reinforcement filler material, which is really cool. The strength improves as more coffee grounds are added up to a saturation point of around 5% by weight. So what pyrolysis does is it transforms the organic compounds in coffee grounds, so they integrate into the weakened concrete they integrate into the concrete instead of weaken it, so they kind of mix in and help to strengthen it. And the heating occurs in an oxygen limited environment, so the biomass does not combust. And at temperatures around 350 degrees Celsius, the organic compounds break down into biochar and pyrolysis oils and gases. If they were to use higher temperatures above 500 degrees Celsius, it would reduce the yield and weaken the bonding potential. So there's going to be optimizations needed to maximize both the quantity and quality of the biochar produced. Coffee concrete, again, could reduce landfill waste, sand mining impacts, carbon emissions, all simultaneously. But real-world performance and durability are going to need further evaluation, especially under like freeze-thaw cycles, corrosion, different things like that.
So I was sharing a few things while you were talking about it, including the Wikipedia article on how pyrolysis works. So people could see that while you were talking. How have they figured out how it makes it stronger?
Yeah, that's a great question. It makes it stronger due to a few key factors. So because the coffee grounds are first pyrolyzed into a carbon-rich charcoal called biochar. So it's charcoal. So the biochar itself has a porous structure that provides nucleation sites for the precipitation and growth of the cement hydration products. So the cement itself, the cement hydrates can crystallize and integrate around the biochar, improving the microstructure. And so the biochar also acts as a filter material that can reduce the porosity and voids within the concrete itself. Now, we're not talking self-healing, we're just talking strength here. So the carbon in the biochar may form specific bonds with the calcium ions from cement, enhancing the bonds. And the coffee grounds themselves provide silica that can react with the cement minerals during hydration. So the coffee-derived biochar chemically and physically reinforces the cement hydrate binder phase of concrete through a bunch of these different mechanisms. And the biochar integrates and strengthens the concrete's microstructure, which improves mechanical properties like compressive and flexural strength. So really cool way to leverage waste materials.
And it says here that 100% of the 75,000 tons of waste SG, which I guess is spent coffee grounds produced in Australia, can be utilized in structural concrete. So I have a couple of questions and you may or may not be able to answer. Because coffee is organic, is it going to decompose? Is this going to last, though it's stronger? Is it going to degrade the length of time it lasts?
Not being a chemical engineering expert, but just based on the pyrolysis, what they do with the coffee grounds, I don't think so, because they're changing its chemical makeup at the end of the day. So I don't think it's going to decompose. Also, because it mixes in with the cement, and the cement kind of binds to it, so it kind of creates a new blend, if that makes sense.
We're always talking about how we can use organic or stuff we're already or waste to recycle and reuse anything in our environment to reduce the impact on the environment and climate and whatnot. Do we believe that the 30% stronger limit is a limit, or do we think we can get stronger?
30% increase, it represents the maximum strength improvement they achieved just in their testing. Higher ratios of coffee ground above 5% did not increase the concrete strength any further. In fact, the strength started decreasing again at ratios above 7.5% as too much coffee biochar became detrimental, which indicates that there's an optimal amount of coffee grounds that provides maximum strengthening. Beyond the optimal percentage, the excess coffee ground biochar just takes space and weakens the overall concrete binding. So there's a limit, because there's only so much cement particles that can mix with the biochar. If you add too much of the coffee ground biochar, then you have excess that's just going to sit there, kind of thing. And that could potentially degrade, like you were talking about.
And what about look, feel, and even potentially smell of the concrete? Does it look the same?
So it doesn't seem that the concrete made with the coffee grounds looks or feels much different than normal concrete. It doesn't mention any visual differences in the article itself or in my research, but probably likely a similar gray color and smooth texture as traditional concrete, because the coffee grounds are charred into a biochar first. So they would not impart their original brown color, if that makes sense. Also, the grounds are finely ground and mixed uniformly, so they're not visibly distinct. So the addition of the biochar may make the concrete slightly more porous, but I don't think it will be able to visually or touch be able to discern the difference. The main difference is more in the mechanical performance, not the aesthetics, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and I guess it's replacing the sand in concrete is this biochar.
I think so. Yeah, I think that's what they're getting at. Or maybe not replacing it, but drastically reducing it, the amount of sand needed.
Is it more expensive? Is it less expensive? And what's the environmental impact of creating this biochar? Because you have to heat it up to a certain level.
So it does require additional processing steps to pyrolyze the coffee grounds into biochar. So that adds time and energy costs. Now, obviously, the concrete production process, you're going to have to modify to handle the coffee additive. Again, coffee grounds, are not uniformly available in all geographical areas yet. So cost analysis is going to be needed as well for the biochar production and concrete customization. It could be more expensive, but they haven't looked into that yet. The other thing is, can changing the curing behavior complicate the pouring and the setting? They have to look into that too. And then there's potential concerns with odor or volatile organic compounds from the biochar. So it may interfere with the use of other cement additives as well. So there are potential downsides, but again, we're in the early stages. Additional R&D is going to be needed. This is definitely very promising.
Yeah, and we agree with our watcher. Coffee makes everything better. So even concrete, apparently.
Yeah.
When will we start seeing this? Does it have to go, like, food intake has to go through FDA or our equivalent process here in Canada for approval?
For sure. Yeah, there's going to be so much because like we don't even know if it degrades yet either. Like we kind of know that the coffee's not going to make it degrade any faster, but there's going to be some testing. So commercialization, we're talking 3 to 5 more years of R&D to optimize the process. And that's if everything goes smoothly. Regulatory approval, building code acceptance are going to require additional time. So based on some of the research, the experts are estimating, again, 10 years from lab concept to widespread commercialization. But I think full-scale adoption, if we're going to get into like our actual infrastructure, highways, bridges, and buildings, we're likely 10 plus years away. I think niche applications could occur sooner, like within the next 5 years. This would be great in third world countries if they could come up, if the process can be done cheaper, because there's tons of excess coffee in the world, right? So It's just a matter of integrating that.
I don't know where we need stronger concrete personally. I just don't know. Is that
Bridges.
going to allow us?
Bridges, highways, like they're all degrading.
Yeah, okay. They're degrading, but so this does not sound like it's going to solve the degrading issue.
Good point.
Right?
Yeah.
So maybe we leave it a little less material to hold the bridge up. Or maybe we can have stronger things like those barriers to stop cars and stuff. They'll be stronger. So I'm just trying to imagine in my head where we need stronger concrete. I guess if the concrete's stronger, we can make the walls thinner. We can do a lot of stuff, support more while utilizing less. So
maybe, yeah. Actually, we should do an episode on history tech, on the concrete cement that was done in Greek times back then, because there are specific chemical makeup and specific processes and things like that make that concrete stronger and last longer. Obviously, it doesn't use coffee grounds, but different things like that. There was an article that came out a few years ago that spoke to it as to why these structures that were built thousands of years ago or hundreds of years ago are lasting longer than our more recent kind of structures.
Yeah, I definitely feel we've lost craftsmanship and knowledge at a as we go through this. For example, we used to have people who knew what herbs and things would heal you. Now we have pharmaceutical companies who've taken that away, and so we don't have that knowledge anymore. And I'm not, we can go down the road of blaming the pharmaceutical.
TikTok is bringing it back.
But my point being is, because we have Tylenol, we don't go to our natural remedies. It's there. It exists. Why would we? Now, maybe for some of these other things, as the technology moves forward, we lose the knowledge of what provided those things in the past for those types of things. Like what made our bridges super strong before? Well, we got concrete now, so we know how to do it, but it's good enough. No one's gone back and say, okay, what did they do here? And how do we apply those processes? And can we make our concrete last 1,000 years now because we're doing this process instead?
Yeah. Coffee makes everything better for sure. This is really cool. I would love to explore at some point the ancient concrete and things like that and do a follow-up. But yeah, this is really cool.
Wow, that was amazing.